Hello to those of you who are just joining. Welcome. If you'd like to write your name in the chat, your organization, where in the world you're joining us from, and tell us if you're a teacher or if you're supporting teachers, that would be great. I think there's quite a few of us joining today, so I'm just going to hold on a moment to let others arrive. But please do introduce yourself in the chat and we'll get going soon. I see that we've just had a few more people arrive, so welcome to those of you just joining us. Please do say hello by writing your name, organisation and where you're joining us from in the chat. Let us know as well if you're a teacher or if you support teachers in your work. I can see people are coming through, so I'm going to gently start whilst allowing people to join us. So welcoming everyone to the session, and a special day because it's the International Day of Education. So happy International Day of Education to everyone. Thank you for celebrating it by coming to this Teacher Capacity Building and Development Spotlight. Do continue to say hello in the chat and introduce yourselves. So I'll give you a look at what's in store for today. For those of you who might not have joined one of our spotlights before, welcome to GSF Spotlight Series. This is where we bring different organisations together from within our community, and we showcase the work they do to our other community members, to our network, but also beyond. Today, I'm going to quickly introduce Global Schools Forum, or GSF, for those of you who might be new or have not attended an event before. And we're really lucky because today we are joined by Ubuntu and Simple Education Foundation, SEF, who are hosting and sharing their work. SEF is going to be sharing their teacher competency framework with us and doing a teacher practice. And Ubuntu is sharing how they build teacher capacity through their hub and talking to us about the importance and power of teacher networks and contextualized education systems. So we're in for a really interesting session. It's going to be really interactive, so we welcome any comments, suggestions, questions that you have in the chat as we go along, but there is dedicated Q&A time after we've heard from Ubuntu and SEF. I'd just like to tell everyone that this is an open space, so please, feel free to share any questions and comments you have. We'd love to hear from you. You will have the speaker's details at the end to follow up as well. The session will be 90 minutes, and if it is possible to keep cameras on and put distractions or devices to the side for the session, that would be really appreciated where it's possible. So, for anyone who might be new to GSF, I'll just give you a quick overview. Global Schools Forum, GSF, is a catalytic community of non-state organisations. We're an innovation accelerator and we're a partnership builder. We're working to systemically improve education for underserved children in low and middle income countries. And our community is currently made up of 111 organisations. These organisations are spanning 60 countries. They're made up of schools, standalone, and school networks, as well as education support organisations. And in total, they are reaching approximately 19.6 million children. So that's through running or supporting over 236,000 schools. And the schools in our community range from early years up to secondary. And those education support organisations are offering a wealth of core support services to schools, and that can include academic services, capacity building, financial services, and more. To achieve our vision, we work in 3 core areas. So the first is that we strengthen and grow our global learning community, and that's why we have run events like the Spotlight today. Our aim is to connect our community, facilitate learning, and sharing and networking. Secondly, through our Impact at Scale labs, we test promising approaches from within the community and we diffuse that evidence. We also have our evidence hubs. And thirdly, we partner strategically to shape policy and scale evidence solutions. If anyone would like to know more about these 3 elements of our work, do email me and my email will be shared at the end, or drop your details in the chat and we'll get back to you. So I would now like to introduce our speakers for today's session. From Ubuntu, we have David Marriott, who is founder and CEO. We have Jess King, founder and COO. And from Simple Education Foundation, SEF, we have Chandni Chopra, Chief Program Officer, and Angela Matthew, Design Lead State Programs. So I want to say thank you to all our speakers for being with us today to share with you on teacher capacity building and development. And for those of you just joining us at the moment, welcome to the session. Happy International Day of Education. Say hello in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and hand over to Ubuntu for the next 25 minutes. And then SEF will follow for the subsequent 25 minutes, and we'll all come back together for discussion. And please do share any questions you have at that point. You're also welcome, like I say, drop them in the chat as we go along as well. So let me stop sharing my screen. And over to you, David and Jess.
Thanks, Steph. Hello, everybody. I can see some of you on the side of my screen, but not everybody. So hopefully Steph or Mercy will pick up on any particular questions or comments that you might raise, throughout our little speech, if you like. So yeah, I'm the CEO of Ubuntu, and Jess, as Steph said, is the COO of Ubuntu. We are a socially conscious edtech company that focuses on igniting teacher careers in sub-Saharan Africa. And a little bit of a background about us is that we all, the entire founding team has spent approximately 40 years collectively teaching in Africa and leading teaching in Africa and taking on various roles. I was the principal of an international school in Malawi, and we all in fact worked at the same school, and that's where we met, and that's how we sort of gelled, and that's where Ubuntu was born, really. We've been going for approximately 3 years now, and just starting to sort of make inroads into the areas of teacher development in Africa. So it's a very exciting time for us as a company, and it's very exciting for us to be here. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, Steph and GSF. So Ubuntu really was started because in our work in Africa, we noticed a few key things. And that was really that there are huge gaps in the opportunities that are available for teachers. And really being educators ourselves, or being teachers ourselves, we also know that the number one factor that influences children's educational outcomes is the quality of teaching that's available to them. And we know that there's a lot of opportunity out there for students to access various tools to help with their learning, but there's relatively little availability for teachers. So that's where Ubuntu was born, really to try and provide opportunities for teachers to grow themselves. And that's why our strapline is igniting teacher careers, because we like to think that we understand teachers from a first-hand basis, and we understand what the educational landscape in Africa is as well, having spent so much time there. The global, the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4 is all about quality education. And the statement they make is that by 2030, we should ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development. 2030 is only 6 years ago, so we've got quite a big task ahead of us. But there are 6 areas really that we view in our experience, and also what the literature will support, that actually makes for a quality education. The first one being the involvement of community. So communities or schools or education systems that are founded strongly within their communities and actually draw wisdom and intelligence, if you like, from the community are those that form the strongest educational institutions. The second one is quality teaching. As I mentioned just now, the number one factor that influences children's learning is good, high quality teaching. The next thing is growth opportunities. Now this is growth opportunities for institutions, so for schools, the opportunity for them to look outside their borders and to see what else is going on. But also ostensibly it's growth opportunities for the professionals working in the profession. It's just like doctors or lawyers or dentists or anybody like that, the more opportunities they have to develop themselves on an ongoing basis, an ongoing professional basis, the stronger that profession becomes. The next is, of course, adequate funding. And education is very, very often not very well funded, but particularly in sub-Saharan African countries, we find that the funding that's provided for schools is very low. So adequate funding doesn't mean that every school has to have, swimming pools and squash courts and tennis courts and things like that. Adequate funding is about providing a basic level of funding that will allow the teaching to really flourish. The next factor is exposure. And I mentioned this a little bit under growth opportunities, but the exposure, the opportunity for teachers and students and institutions as a whole, schools in particular, to be exposed to what's happening in other parts of the world is really important. People grow by seeing what other people do. And the last point that we have is collaboration. And that is where people have the opportunity to collaborate with each other, not only within their own settings, but also from neighboring schools or neighboring institutions. The ability to collaborate actually, or the opportunity to collaborate actually allows people to grow professionally and to develop their skills. And they say a rising tide raises all ships, and it's a bit like that. So that's what creates a good quality education, those 6 factors. But what we find, the dynamics of education in Africa, what we actually see is firstly that there are a lot of the school systems are quite outdated and old-fashioned. I'm sure everybody's seen pictures of classrooms that are not only underfunded, but we see children still kind of sat in very, traditional style, perhaps rows, or it tends to be very Victorian in a sense and quite outdated. The next thing that we have observed is that a large portion of the teaching workforce in sub-Saharan Africa is underskilled. In fact, I was just attending a talk about an hour ago at the BEC conference, which is where I'm at the moment, where they were saying 40% of teachers in Africa don't even have the minimum qualifications required to be a teacher. So there's a big informal sector associated with the profession, meaning that a lot of people are underskilled. And then, of course, this results in typically low educational outcomes overall. The reason for this is that there is limited professional exposure for teachers. Teachers don't typically have the opportunity to see what other teachers are doing, or to look more globally to see what education systems are like in the rest of the world. That opportunity has been limited historically. The second factor is that in sub-Saharan Africa, there is a very limited amount of professional development opportunity for teachers. And that which is available is often very expensive. And the reason for that is that it often comes from the global north. Whereas actually, there is a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge and a lot of latent skill that sits within the body of teachers in sub-Saharan Africa, but it just hasn't yet been brought into the professional development arena. And lastly, schools are often underfunded. Now, there's very little that companies like us can do about that. But as I said earlier, being underfunded doesn't mean that you don't have the money to buy a squash court or a swimming pool. It's about providing that basic level of funding that can get the basic facilities in place that will allow children to learn and allow schools to flourish. So really, to move the needle, or to shift the paradigm or change the paradigm, or however you want to phrase it, we view it at Ubuntu that there's both a direct and an indirect approach that's needed to take place, and both at institutions as a whole and also at teachers as individuals. And that's where our business is focused. So it's really around developing those teachers. So Ubuntu as a business is really focused. Our primary product is our hub, which is a collecting point for teachers. But we also are a very socially conscious organization, and we have a big non-profit arm as well, or focus as well, which we call USAWA. This is where we actually work directly with schools, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. The indirect impact is where we provide our EdTech solution, and that is the Ubuntu Hub. And in the interest of bringing teachers together under one or in one area, we have this hub, and the hub is, without going into detail right now, it's a place where teachers really can gather. And it doesn't mean that teachers from one school or from one country or whatever. It's about that collective knowledge, about getting people to come from all over and share their experience, share their skills, share their knowledge and wisdom about education, because everybody can learn through that process of networking and collaborating. So our hub is really there to provide teachers with opportunities to develop themselves with their colleagues. So that's an indirect approach that we take to the development of educational outcomes. But the direct impact that we are focusing on is where our non-profit or our socially conscious work happens. And that is under a banner that we call USAWA. And this is where we work directly with schools and their communities to improve the impact that we can have on the ground. But it's a two-way street. When we work with the schools that we do work with, we gain a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding about what these schools are experiencing on a day-to-day basis and what the teachers are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And it's from those conversations and it's from that learning that we actually develop the body of knowledge that then feeds into our hub, which can then be widely shared. So it all sort of works together hand in hand very nicely. To go into a bit more detail, I'm going to let Jess talk a little bit about our hub first of all, and then I'll talk about the USAWA program.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can all hear me okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the hub now, which is our the way that we work with teachers. In essence, it offers a selection of tools to support teacher career growth. So I'm just going to go through those briefly. On the hub, and you can there is an app to which teachers can access this, and it's also available on a web browser as well. They can learn through podcasts, webinars, the ability to network with other teachers in subject spaces, group messages, and direct messaging to other teachers, find jobs in desired locations, courses, and also the ability to monetize skills. So skills and expertise by selling courses, resources, and in time as well, the ability to sell their time, for example, if they're tutoring on the site, which we have heard from a lot of teachers is the case. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the hub. We launched this last year, and we really are excited about the real thirst that we are seeing for this offering. On a small marketing budget, which we ran over 3 months, we've had over 5,000 educators now on the hub. And we've got some ambitious goals by the end of next year to have 50,000 educators on the hub, and by the end of 2025 to have over 200,000. So really this online community is growing and growing quickly. Essentially, it operates on a freemium model, so it's free first and always, if that is chosen to be, and there's premium features available at a low cost, should teachers want those. The aim is for it to be affordable to the low and middle income educators. And although Ubuntu does produce some of the content in our areas of specialization, which include digital transformation for schools, leadership, including emerging leadership skills, so not just school leaders, but leadership at all levels for an educator. We also specialize in the decolonization of education and early childhood education. But above and beyond what we produce, we champion teachers across the continent to showcase their expertise in a variety of ways. So whether that be courses or webinars, resources, articles, that they have the ability to showcase themselves and monetizing their skills wherever possible, wherever they want to. The avenue of monetizing skills is currently in its infancy, but yeah, it's definitely going to grow over the course of the next year, and we're really excited about this. And we believe it's going to become one of the prominent features, and having emerged out of the demand that we've been seeing from teachers. So the hub will continually develop according to what the teachers demand, really. It's often the case that we find schools operate in isolation. I know I'm on a call here with members who are part of school networks, which is great, but for the majority, schools do work in isolation. So there is definitely a value in coming together, networking with others. We've seen this to be a strong reaction, and also a strong reaction to the fact that it's a Pan-African network with solutions and opportunities for educators across the continent, and not an afterthought. It's actually for them. It's, yeah, as I said, exciting year ahead as we develop these avenues, the different avenues that we have, and we build the tech to enable the solutions that teachers are looking for. I'm going to just talk a little bit about what the Hub can offer to the GSF community. Due to the large numbers of teachers within the community, there's access to teacher voice. Teacher voice is so important. It's often ignored, unfortunately, but you know, they hold all the information about what's actually happening in classrooms, what the actual issues are. So we have a very data-rich source of information on educational issues, but also a community to which to share information created by organizations that are with us today or individuals on this call. We, as the Hub, it can be used as an additional free resource for teachers on existing programs. So please do share this with teacher networks, or if you are a teacher, please do come in. You know, through the Hub, we aim to increase capacity. The more that's on there, the more that we network and collaborate together, the better that we all can be. So please, yep, the more the merrier. And as an organization as well, the platform can be used for ideation, research, and distribution. We're absolutely up for collaborating and forming partnerships where possible. So whether you have research you want to share, or perhaps you have a product, or you wish to address teachers, please do get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Thank you. I'm going to go back to Dave now.
Thanks, Jess. So that's our hub, and that's where we appeal to the individual teachers, you know, as they want to grow their own careers. But our Asawa program is, as I mentioned just now, it's where we work directly with schools and their communities. At the moment, we've got 4 key projects, if you like, that we run. The first is our digital transformation for schools. We're just coming to the end of a pilot project now where we have developed, and we're in the process of just refining it at the moment, a WhatsApp-based AI digital platform where teachers can actually learn the skills that they need to shift their mindset into the digital world. Because what we have found is that students and teachers view technology very differently. Students view it as an opportunity, and teachers view it as a threat. Now, if schools are to progress along a digital transformation trajectory, that mind shift of teachers needs to take place in order that they can take the technology that they perhaps come into at some point and make best use of it for the students' benefit. So our DTFS program is all about providing those mindset shift opportunities for teachers. The second program is where we actually address a key problem in sub-Saharan Africa at the moment, and that is the school readiness for very young children. And quite often, we hear things like play-based learning, or you know, those sorts of terms that are thrown around quite easily in the global north, but and they're starting to be used a bit more in sub-Saharan Africa, but very often it's viewed as we need to bring this in from, you know, from overseas or in from England or whatever. But actually, play is not new in African societies. So it's about creating play-based learning structures and opportunities for very young learners to develop their learning before they actually start school, by making use of culturally and local indigenous resources, indigenous knowledge, songs, dances, things like that, to create a familiar learning framework for children to become school ready. The third area is our rather unique LEC conferences. These are conferences which are tailored to the needs of various communities. Currently, we've only run 2 of them. Both of them have been early years conferences, and both of them in Malawi, actually. a year apart. But really, it's the uniqueness about these conferences is where we bring educators into the same room as academics and people that actually have some sort of academic background or impact on or say in education from that side. And we bring these groups together in a sort of a workshop / conference environment, create the conversation, and start building knowledge out of that in that way. The final one that we're working on at the moment is where we work directly with schools on bespoke development programs for them. So highly contextualizing school development, not bringing it in from outside, but rather actually just letting the community have a say in how their schools need to look, where they want to go to, and then building from that community wisdom, from the school wisdom, from all the stakeholders that are involved in the school to create those strong school structures. So that's our USAWA program. And what the USAWA program can really bring to the GSF community is the opportunity to partner, particularly in the areas that we focused on. Currently, we are looking for partners to start scaling up our digital transformation program. That's not only limited to that. Of course, we look for partnerships all the time. The second is the opportunity to host a conference for perhaps there's a GSF member out there who's wanting to host a conference on a particular area of education. And this is where we can help structure that conference, put it together, pull the right people into the room to get the conversation flowing. And thirdly, it's an access to research outcomes. So we talked about teacher voice earlier. We talked about all these different opportunities that we can bring knowledge to the table. And in doing so, we are building a database which will grow massive over time that can provide people with knowledge about how they can develop their own products. So often, when products are developed for educators or for schools, teachers aren't involved in the conversation, and really they should be, because it's the ultimate custom for any education system is the student, and the gateway to those students is the teachers. So it's about bringing all these pieces together, about creating the right conversations, and then about producing the right products and outcomes for the education community. So that's really Ubuntu. This is our team. This was our founding team, rather. We have brought a few other people on board now, but we've got a significant amount of experience. And in the space, we really believe in what we're doing. We hope you do too. And it's if you want to get in touch with us for any of the things we've spoken about so far, please do. I think Steph is making all our details available to everybody that's on this call at a later point. Thank you.
Thanks, David, and thanks, Jess. And we're running a couple of minutes ahead of schedule. So just because you've shared so many amazing things at the end of that deck, I thought I would just pause to see if anyone had like a clarifying question or something they wanted to ask now before we move on to hearing from Simple Education Foundation. Is there anything anyone would like to share or check in with? Oh, there's a question in the chat. Annabelle says, are there any options for teachers to download and access resources offline?
That's a very good question, and we're very aware of the challenges that teachers often have with accessing data or reasonably priced data. At the moment, we don't have on our.
I just lost your sound, David. I don't know if it's working for everybody else. No.
No, I can take over though. No, so we don't currently, but we understand that is an issue. We are over the course of the next year updating the platform that we are going to be using, and so there will be ability to view offline as well. So that is coming. It's just not currently there yet. There are resources and stuff that can be downloaded and then and read or utilized whilst offline, but it's not offline access at the moment.
Thanks, Jess. And Annabelle also followed up. She said, also, will there be any quality measures on the teacher-produced materials? I'm thinking about quality issues that can come up with sites like Teachers Pay Teachers. And Ashti had said she would love to see a demo of the Ubuntu platform to get a sense of what it looks like. So I don't know if we'll have time at the end or if it's for another day, but maybe we can organise that.
Sure. Yes. So with the demo, yes, if we don't have time today, I definitely please get in touch or sign up. It's free, so you can definitely go in and have a look and see what it looks like. The other question was quality assurance. Yes. So this is something that is very important to us, and as we develop those mechanisms will have to come into place. It's a fine line between like Teachers Pay Teachers, if resources aren't good, they get rated, people can comment, and really we want to hear from the community about what they value as being good and useful. So there will be elements of that brought into it. And also the ability for like accredited courses to be shown and things like that. But that's a whole nother question, is who's accrediting it, and where's that accreditation coming from, and what does it mean? But all of these will be available and to be able to be shown.
Thanks, Jess. And there's just one more question in the chat before I hand over to Chandni and Angela, from Imrana, who says, could you throw more light on the digital transformation for schools? What resources are on the platform?
Yes, absolutely. So I don't know how much time we have now, but we have a whole one-page information sheet about that, including the modules that are available, because it's a digital readiness course. So there's like several modules available in that. It's delivered through an AI chatbot. So although the chatbot is used to walk somebody through the course, the actual course material has been combined through community research with schools that we're working with in Rwanda, Malawi, and Zambia. And yes, it's several modules, as I said. It's quite a hefty information. I can send more information, or if somebody would like some more information, you can reach out afterwards and we can send you some stuff. We're going to be speaking about it a lot more very soon when it's officially launched. We're currently just testing it, and it's just about to be rolled out. So more is coming publicly from us very soon.
Thank you. I've seen another question in the chat, but I'll hold it and we'll come back to that in the discussion, because I'm going to hand over now to Chandni and Angela from SEF.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Jess and David. I'm sure it's so difficult to wrap up all of this information in 25 minutes, but you did a brilliant job, and I'm going to try to do the same. A big hello to everybody here. I saw on chat that there are so many teachers, teacher educators working closely with children. It's so happy. We feel so happy to be here talking to all of you. I'm from Simple Education Foundation. I'm Angela. I'm going to tell you a little about the work that we do at SEF. Before that, I'm going to tell you a little about India and its statistics. Over 70% of the children are currently enrolled in government schools in India, which is a big, big part of the population, right? And at SCF, we believe in the mission that all children deserve a chance at getting access to high quality education. And we believe in our teachers to be able to do that. So we work closely with our teachers to transform these public schools by empowering our teachers through our teacher educators to support them in bringing about brilliant transformation in the schools and the children that they work with. Our model at SCF is a two-phased model. In our Centers of Excellence program in the schools, we work closely with teachers and teacher educators, learning from the different resources and programs and experiences of our teachers and students. And from these, we also work with the state governments, the state government programs, the state government partnerships with policymakers, and building capacity in the different people who are in educational leadership positions and mentorship positions. I'm going to tell you a little about the teacher competency framework today. In the next 25 minutes, we're going to cover a little bit about a teacher practice that we will do together, connecting with student learning, the teacher competencies, our teacher competency framework, the first of its kind in India, the implementation, and our journey. But before we go ahead, we're going to quickly just check into our current emotions. This is something that is very dear to us at SEF. We've used this with so many of our students and our teachers. I could start. I'm feeling very, very nervous if you haven't already noticed. But just wanted to take a pause and hear from you. You can annotate on screen. How are you feeling right now? Just to be here with so many people. You can use the chat box to share how you're feeling. Just going to leave this for a couple of moments on screen. Thank you for starting us off, Chandni. You're feeling focused, excited? Curious, tired, hopeful. Yeah, I'm a little tired, very, very hopeful. Grateful, happy, hungry, peaceful. Absolutely, such a spectrum of emotions, right? In this virtual space, in this room, right? This is the same spectrum of emotions that our children are feeling every time they're in the classroom, every time they're in different spaces. So this is a tool we use to just check into their emotions as well. In fact, a fun fact, some of these emotions were shared with us by our students, because when we asked them how they felt, they were like, I'm a little hungry and I'm a little angry, which is why the hunger came. I'm feeling okay. I don't know how I'm feeling. So our children contributed actively in telling us how they feel. And that is why it became a part of this feelings chart exercise. We tried it out further in different spaces, in different states. And in Punjab, this was a picture that was sent to us by a few teachers during the summer camp, that the children were feeling a whole spectrum of emotions and they wanted to do this activity and make their own feelings chart. What do you think this exercise would do for a child in your classroom or with the teachers that you work with? We can use chat to respond to this question. How do you think this practice is going to impact our children? A sense of belonging, self-reflection, personal connections, self-exploration, reflection. To be mindful, to be heard and valued. That's beautiful. That's exactly the purpose, this and beyond. And we don't know how, at the different beautiful things that it impacts our children with. Now, moving a step forward, what do you think the teacher had to do to be able to create this experience for their students? There are 7 little bubbles on the screen. I'm going to give you some time to just engage with these bubbles, read through it. What do you think this exercise required from the teachers? You can share on chat just using the numbers. Thanks, Deepthi. Deepthi says 3 and 5. Empathy for all the bubbles. Yes, everything. 3. Just going to wait for a couple more responses. Thank you for engaging. 3, 4, and 5. And you're all absolutely right. They're all multifunctional. The focus is 3 and 5, but it impacts the child in so many different ways. And the teacher has to be intentional in whatever they're creating for their students. Taking a moment and stepping back and looking at this exercise, what we were trying to build for our children was their social emotional learning. How the teacher did it was through a feelings check-in. What they were trying to do, what they had to have in themselves, was the intention of building culture and safety and the competency to be able to build that. But there are so many teachers and there are so many competencies. So how do we know what to prioritize? And this is why we came together with the State Research and Training Council in Delhi to build the teacher competency framework, to be able to outline what are the different competencies that the teachers can build in themselves to be able to support their children better. To talk about what the teacher competency framework is, our journey and its implementation, I'm going to invite Chandni.
Thanks, Angela, and I hope you all enjoyed this just absolutely beautiful teacher practice. It's our kids' favorite practice, and it's like a daily practice now that's used across classrooms in Delhi. As Angela was talking about the teacher competency framework and where it started from, what's the intention of it? We officially launched the teacher competency framework with the Delhi state government in 2002. This was a journey of a year and a half, looking at the national professional teacher standard frameworks, looking at global practices, and really working with the associate professors and teacher educators, the faculty at the training institutions, to create something that was shared, something that was lived, and something that really motivated the teachers. A lot of the times, what we see happening is that there are a lot of national frameworks or policy documents that are published, but because they are not actionable, there is a lack of motivation. And I think something that David really beautifully alluded to earlier, a lack of collaboration around certain frameworks. It doesn't really get adopted. It doesn't really come into practice. So that was really the intention with the teacher competency framework. And how can we make this usable, contextualized, and actionable for all teachers in Delhi, in the state? And Delhi has 80,000 in-service teachers, which is a massive number. How do we really get teachers to champion this and use this to embody these competencies? So that was the challenge in front of us. And as you can see, the three domains that we were able to zero in on and define were about classroom culture, which is keeping children at the center, pedagogical practice, which is just your practice, your excellence as a teacher. And the third piece was a lot around school partnerships, community partnerships, partnerships with coaches and teacher educators. So these were what the three domains of the teacher competency framework look like. Now, what does that mean for it to translate into practice? The first step we took was to create a user guide. This framework is meant for educators to be used by the educators. So what we did is we tried to break this down, make it actionable and very user-friendly. So each domain is, as you can see, like the little bubbles, statements 3, 4, and 5, like you were sharing, is broken down into extremely measurable, actionable indicators that teachers can access. They have it broken, like it's not an Excel document, it's something that's more comfortable that teachers can use. And each actionable indicator also has a resource attached to it. So like the beautiful feelings chart that you saw Angela do, which was connected to creating a safe classroom. So the teacher is able to see, okay, what does it mean for me to create a safe space for listening? And she has access to a resource like the feelings chart. These are also, we have QR codes on every resource or every domain. So it's very easy for the teacher to scan and download these resources whenever she needs. So the step one was just to create a user guide which would make the competency framework more than a framework, something that is usable and easy for teachers to implement. Our user guide also has steps that the teacher can use. She can pick the indicators that she wants and really look at what's needed for her classroom. So before I move on to the next part, just imagine and a lot of you share that you are educators yourself or are teacher educators or work with teachers in some way. Now, like imagine having these big policy or framework documents broken down into user guides, into usable resources, having access to things like a feelings chart and demonstration videos. Would love to hear on the chat, what do you think that this would do for a teacher? If a teacher had a user guide like this, a competency framework broken down into indicators, accessible resources, steps to use them. What do you think that would do for these 80,000 teachers? What can this enable for teachers? Would love to hear just some comments on the chat. Beautiful. I can see more time and power, equality. Definitely, we saw teachers taking ownership. As you can see, the teacher in Punjab contextualized her own feelings chart. Yeah, ease of access. These frameworks don't need to be complicated. They can be easy. They can be simple. Yeah, it actually adds to motivation. I think that's a really beautiful insight, because a lot of times having very complex documents or having very wordy, complicated things which are not bite-sized can demotivate the teacher very easily. And we need to give some things in like bite sizes, break things down to help the teacher implement it. Yeah. And definitely additional resources. It's a repository of ideas that can help the teacher. And what we wanted to do was just have a framework which is actionable in every teacher's hands. Now going further, we had definitely thought of the teacher as an individual, develop this user guide, these access to resources. The other challenge in front of us was, how do we now redesign the teacher, all the professional development interventions at the state level? So with any state program or a large scale systems program, what would it mean to really integrate this competency framework meaningfully? So teachers are doing this individually, but also the state institution is redesigning the offerings or the interventions it has for teacher support. So step one was something very familiar. It is done across all countries, across all states, which is large-scale training workshops. I'm sure in your context also, you must have experienced these large-scale training workshops. So step one was to look at something that's already familiar and look at what are the micro innovations we could do in the training workshops. In the training workshops, what we did is we started working with all the partners who do give the training, including SEF, who does also disseminate training for teachers. And we started encouraging them to make the objectives of the training based on TCF indicators. So for example, we had a module, a training module or a training workshop just on relationship building, which was based on domain 1, which was classroom culture. We had another training module on just pedagogical practices, group work, individual work that was based on excellence as a teacher. So we picked different domains, different indicators, and we encourage people who are designing training workshops or leading these training workshops to really pick objectives and indicators, measure the teacher competency framework indicators through their training workshops. And that we saw a lot of openness to that as well, because it helped all the people who were giving trainings, were facilitators, make their training also actionable and measurable in a way. After that, we added a couple of other interventions as layers. The second one was classroom demonstrations. So after teachers received training, we also sent around 1,100 teacher development coordinators who did live demonstrations of the practices in the classroom. So just how you experienced Angela doing a demonstration of the feelings chart, we have around 1,100 schools in Delhi. So in the 1,100 schools, there was a facilitator who went in, did the demonstration with students, and that really enabled the adoption of these high impact practices. And as you've already seen, and the third piece, and the classroom demonstrations were, I think, one of the most successful innovations we did in the system, post which teachers were given self-learning resources. You've already seen the user guide, but we also had videos of somebody like Angela doing the practices, or other teacher development coordinators doing the practices in their classroom, demonstration videos, and different kinds of online courses that the teachers could leverage. And the last piece of the puzzle, the last piece of really supporting teachers to adopt these competencies and grow in their skills, is what our vision is for this year, is to really work on differentiated coaching and support. So in Delhi, we are working with around 300 mentor teachers and coaches who go into classrooms and support teachers. They do classroom observations, and the classroom observation tool is also based on the teacher competency framework indicators. So what you can see is the entire teacher development system comes full circle, where even the training that we're providing is connected to the teacher competency. The supporting tools are there, and even classroom observation, monitoring and evaluation mechanisms are also aligned to the teacher competency framework. And this, of course, has been a journey across 2.5 years. It's been a long journey, but it's really what's made it comprehensive, where we work with the individual teacher, but also we are doing all these multiple interventions at the state level. So it is sound, the teacher has an integrated experience. And we wanted to also showcase an example of how this has happened in practice, where this is an example of a teacher, like what we did as a training module, where we did the workshop. This was supported by classroom demonstration. So what happened in the training workshop, we saw that the training proficiency was only around 63%, but we ensured that teachers were getting extra support through classroom demonstrations, through hands-on practice. And what we saw in the observations was that there was a higher number of teachers actually adopting the practices. So 77% of the teachers observed were engaging respectfully with students. They were appreciating positive behavior. And we could see actually adoption was higher because we had other aligned interventions related to the teacher competency framework. So this was just an example we wanted to show you. Additionally, on the next slide, we have a couple of resources, what we give in terms of self-learning guides, examples. All of these we would be sharing across and are available to everyone at all. SEF has all its resources are open source. So this is also an offer to the community. You can access all our resources absolutely free. We open source all our resources and can be used by anyone. And we have all our examples are available in Hindi and in English. So they can also be used in multiple countries. So these are just some glimpses of interventions and resources. And if you would like to reach out to us, we would definitely be open to collaborate and help develop this for you and your context as well. Yeah, so this is just a little bit about us, our work with the teacher competency framework and how it's been lived in design and in practice. And our hopes to ensure that all teachers and all students are moving towards adoption of this framework in practice at the state level. So yeah, thank you all for just hearing us out. We would love to just hear on the chat your key takeaway or a question you're wondering about, anything you resonated with. Our program is it's implemented in public schools. So we work with the government. So this program currently is free and it's in public schools, in government schools in Delhi. Yeah. And we're also, we have just started our partnership with the Punjab and Uttarakhand government, which are 2 different states in India. But it is absolutely free and we have, everything is open and available to the public. I'll wait a minute or two, Steph, I think, for questions and any takeaways, anything you all are resonating with.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has anything now, please share in the chat, or you're welcome to put your hand up or just speak out loud as you like. Oh, you answered the question about the private schools. I had a question. It's maybe a little bit strange. I used to be a teacher, and I was in an international school, and it was an English and French school. And one of the Anglophone teachers, she did something similar with the children. She checked in with them before each lesson. But she got some pushback from the French teachers. It wasn't really a part of their culture because they were more academically focused. I just wondered, when it comes to this kind of thing, I know some cultures are more well-being focused in the classroom, and there's that, you know, that battle between, will it compromise the academics? And do you find this, or have you come across a similar issue ever?
Yeah, I think there is definitely a lot of pressure, especially for teachers to complete the coursework to ensure, and then the academic pressure at times compromises like the well-being of children. I think what we've done is just encourage teachers to And we introduced all of these well-being practices at the time of COVID. And I think at that time, the understanding and there was a lot of more openness to well-being, and a lot of people were also struggling with mental health issues. So we actually started with us just doing this practice with teachers for a few months, helping them reflect on the benefits they had in their own lives, and then taking it to children. Because again, the teacher has to be motivated and understand the purpose. If it is just coming as a practice or a mandate, it's very difficult for any teacher to take it back to her classroom. So it was something we did focus on. What's it doing for you? How is it helping you and your well-being? As teachers were actually struggling a lot during COVID and lockdown period in India. And then helping them see what would that do for children then? How would you make that connect? There are definitely some struggles that I would want to acknowledge that still happen, that it's not always consistent, the practice. Sometimes the academics take over. But what we've seen is if the teachers are usually consistent with it in the class, usually the kids have just started taking ownership of the practice. So the kids just like as a part of their morning meeting or the way they close the day, the kids start asking and all of that. So they just start taking ownership because kids would enjoy the practice the most. And then it just becomes part of the classroom culture. And a practice like this actually just takes 5 minutes in our workshop itself. It just took us 2-3 minutes to do this exercise. So it's not very time consuming. If we have practices that are 15 to 20 minutes long, we do experience that pushback. So that's also a design challenge for us. What are 2 to 3 minute simple practices that a teacher can do that can greatly enhance classroom culture or the experience of a child? I think that's the challenge and the push for us as well.
Thank you. Does anyone want to ask another question? I know there's a couple of comments in the chat, but if anyone has a question they want to share. Did you have another slide, by the way, Chandni?
Oh, I think this is it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm just reading some of the comments.
Joseph, I think Steph will be sharing some links in which you can connect with us, and all of our email IDs with you. I think we'd be more than happy to share more information with you and connect.
Yes, I will. I will be sharing contact details and some resources from both Ubuntu and SEF, so you'll have a chance to get connected, but feel free to drop emails in the chat as well. And Annabelle has said, can SEF share a good link or starting point for accessing your online resources?
All of our links haven't been uploaded online, but the moment you connect with us, we'd be happy to share resource packets with you.
Perfect. And then we had a comment further up the chat from Anuradha, who said the biggest learning from this webinar has been about how to make the rubric more teacher friendly, something we've been wondering about now for a while. So maybe something to collaborate or discuss after the webinar. But they were saying that they're happy because the work you're doing seems to align with their own work, and it feels validating to know working in the right direction, which is, it's good. Like that's hopefully one of the nice things that comes out of these sessions is a feeling of collectivity and working towards the same objective. Oh, Ashti says, where are you currently implementing TCF? What early evidence of impact are you seeing? And what are some challenges or pivots you've made? That's in the chat.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashley. We've been implementing the teacher competency framework for the past 1.5 years in Delhi. We are extending it to our work in Punjab and Uttarakhand. So currently it's been in practice in one of the states in Delhi, and we are taking it to 2 more states at a state intervention program. We already implement the competency framework we also work directly in partner schools. So we have 8 partner schools where we do direct intervention work. that's in Delhi and Uttarakhand. So we use the teacher competency framework very actively there. The challenge, I think the pivot has just been the design simplification, like we've learned a lot over the years about we've iterated it, how to make it more consumable, how to make it more teacher and user friendly. I think that's been the biggest challenge. A lot of times people give up easily on frameworks because we've just not designed it for the person. And how do we constantly keep thinking about that, getting feedback and improving it? And how do we make it a living tool? So currently the exploration we are also under is how can maybe teachers submit their own resources to this? So we have provided some resources. Can we also make it like a best practice sharing space where teachers all over the state can also submit entries for an indicator or something? Those are like explorations that we want to have and pivot around to make this really shared and like rally the motivation around it. Some of the challenges, I think, just how to deeply integrate it has been a challenge, and there has to be, and especially because we work with public schools, the buy-in from the decision makers at the government has to be very, very strong. And that has been at times challenging. That has been at times priority shift, especially in India, things like education is also like moves a lot with political influence and the political cycles. And that at times either paces up our work or paces down our work incredibly. So just moving with that and ensuring that stakeholder investment in the government is extremely high at all times. I think that's been a learning curve for us as well. Wonderful questions.
And there was a question earlier on for Ubuntu from Joseph at UGFI, who said, is this solution appropriate for every teacher while there are those who are in remote areas? How can they have access?
Yes, I don't know if he's referring to the hub or to the USAWA programs. I'll talk on both. The hub, yes, you do have to have internet access and be able to access it on a phone. But that's actually one of the reasons we have the USAWA programs, is that we are aware that the hub isn't for every teacher. And that's one of the reasons we've also done the Digital Transformation for Schools program. It does at the moment require you to have WhatsApp, but our learnings from the schools that we're working in, and we are working with public schools, is that the majority of teachers do have WhatsApp. We are, as we scale, which will happen in the next year, looking at ways that we could partner with organizations. For example, we have the course, the digital readiness course. Now, perhaps that could go out on radio. Perhaps there are other ways that could be reached, but at the moment it's on a WhatsApp enabled bot. So people would be interacting through WhatsApp, and that's would be all they need.
Thanks, Jess. I had a question just to see if anyone here was a teacher and if they had like a particular kind of development or training struggle or something that they were looking for support with, and if you were here today and if there was anything maybe Ubuntu or SEF could help advise on. Do we have any educators with us? I take the silence as maybe not, but if you want to email me and I can connect you if there is something, or if you want to put it in the chat, please do.
Can I just ask Chandni and Angela about the open source? Because I know you guys have published some of this information on your website, and I know you're directing people to write to you. But if there's anything that we can share via GSF through our network or link to our pages, I think that might be a good place to start. And I think that is also alluding to Annabelle's question to say, where do we actually start? So when you're saying open source, are you looking at actually sharing all of this material as widely as you can, so putting it up on the SEF website? And how have you, kind of as a secondary question, anybody that's accessing your material, how are they taking it on? Do you provide some kind of touch point and coaching and support? Because obviously you're doing a lot of that with the government. So how do you support other organizations that want to use your material?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. So there are some resources that are on our website, but because we work in partnership with the government, you'll see that the state publishes a lot of it. So the demonstration videos are on the state YouTube channel, or the state institution we publish through them, because it's also more credibility and there's wider teacher outreach in the state. So we would also share those links over here. We can even look them up and share them right after this and on the group chat as well. So like the state has released YouTube videos. We also have the teacher competency framework itself that we can share actively. We have looked at supporting organizations. So there was a couple of organizations who have adopted our curriculum. And we've done 1 or 2 partnerships where we've been doing coaching work with organizations who want to do a more long-term, year-long partnership. We are looking at how do we have kind of online courses or some kind of coaching support, and how can we help other organizations either develop work like this or adopt work like this, or use the competency framework in their own context. We have been doing that. We would be launching something around this in the next few months as well, where there would be a more formal way to interact. We've only done a couple of pilots. We've had a lot of organizations reach out to us to help, but I think for us, we also want to make sure that we are developing it responsibly and ensuring that we're giving a kind of a stronger program design around organization support. So currently we have some tools that are published and some self-learning resources that are published. We'll definitely share links to that. In terms of regular support, there are communities of practice and some courses that we will be releasing in the next few months, and we'll definitely share that through the GSF network as well.
Thank you. And there was a comment in the chat. I think it's speaking to what you started to share with us, David, previously about mindset. And it says, I think one of the biggest challenges as an educator and now as a teacher educator is to account for mindset shifts and in some sense quantify it in terms of measurable actions. That was by Anuradha.
Can you hear me talking now? Is it?
Yeah.
There you can. Okay. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we found with the mindset shift is that a lot of it is about confidence. This is particularly to do with digital mindset shift, but it's not limited to that particularly. Because I think teachers have been starved of having a voice for so long, many NGOs, government bodies, policymakers, the one type of person they seem to ignore when getting into the conversation, unfortunately, is the teachers. And I think over time, this has undermined confidence in the teachers themselves, and they feel they haven't ever had a say over certain things. So it's about rebuilding their confidence, and a lot of our digital transformation program is about building their confidence up. It's not only in digital transformation that this needs to happen, of course, it's in everything. And this is one of the things I have to commend the SEF crew on. It, it provides what they're doing is really providing a framework that can substantiate what teachers are feeling about their pupils and give them a framework from which to build that confidence and trust that they need to, be excellent teachers. So great product there. Well done, guys. Yeah, I really like it.
I was just going to add on there as well. It also lends itself to, when we're talking about mindset shift, to leadership skills training for educators, because it's something that's primarily left out of teacher training, and you're expected to take up leadership roles without sometimes any training at all. But that training, that emerging leadership level training, gives you that confidence and skills that you then grow with, growth mindset included in that as well. So yeah, we're very big on those emerging leader skills.
I might just ask if it's okay for a brief a screen grab just before we approach the end of the session, and then I won't ask again. And if there are more questions, we can come back to it. But for our takeaways, we like to do a little screen grab of all the people who come to our events, and we're very grateful that you're here with us today. So if it's okay to momentarily put cameras on, I will get that out of the way, if that's okay. Okay, thank you. Perfect. Did anyone have anything? We still have time, so any other questions or thoughts or even challenges? We don't have to have the answer right now, but if anyone wants to share anything.
Hey there. I actually have a very quick question, just from sense of learning. Like Chandni and Angela shared about the TCF framework largely, and I remember Chandni sharing how there are mentor teachers who reach out to teachers further, all the 80,000 teachers further. I wanted to learn if there are any 2 to 3 practices that you have seen, because this whole framework is pretty new for those mentor teachers also, but they definitely would have been doing something really strong right at the start. If you could share like those 2 or 3 practices that you have seen them really doing great at the start of the use while using the framework.
I think one thing that worked really well was just having mentor teachers in the design process early. So they've actually helped us co-design the framework as well, and resources. So the great thing about the mentor teachers in Delhi is like they are highly motivated. And that's why they're selected to be mentor teachers. So I think one thing that's worked well is sourcing a lot of practices from them. So a lot of the resources that go out to teachers are also designed by a lot of mentor teachers. So we have a core group of mentor teachers who come in and design these resources with us. That also helps the amplification as well. I think another thing that I've learned from mentor teachers, and Angela, please add here as well, is they know so much about the context. They've been teachers in the system for so many years, and other teachers look up to them. We might have taught in our own, like maybe for a few years, but these mentor teachers have built very strong relationships with teachers. They have the respect of the community and the teachers, and they know what would work and not work in the context. So their feedback is so pivotal to the process. And their focus on building motivation and relationships first, really getting the buy-in and motivation of the teachers before integrating any instructional practice in. That's been a huge learning, which is also why the bet on culture first, the bet on like just building classroom culture, building some practices that would be easier for teachers before we do core technical practices and building that safety. Also the idea of demonstrations, that before we start observing teachers, it's better like let them see us do it, like just to feel that safety. So that actually came for a lot from people in the system. The first idea is just go and observe teachers, but how do you slowly build safety for teachers as well, is by saying that, hey, I'm not here to judge you, I'm here to support you. And how do we go from that support lens first? And a lot of ideas around modeling, let us demonstrate first, all of that came from teacher development coordinators or mentor teachers, because they really knew what it took to build safety, motivation, and contextual understanding for teachers. So that's huge learnings we've taken from them, and really grateful for that.
Thank you for sharing this.
Okay, I can add, even though we're discussing in the chat room, but I wanted to really discuss. My name is Lanre from Nigeria. I wanted to ask how the teacher competency framework will work in the context of supporting pre-service teachers. And yeah, we have a response in the chat room, but if you may talk a bit more to that.
Pre-service teachers are something that I'm so excited about, because I just feel like investing in future teachers and just young, motivated individuals who want to commit themselves to being teachers is just a beautiful thing. And we've actually just started our pre-service vertical just this past year. And it's been just incredible and encouraging to see. So at least in India, I'm not sure about other country contexts, but at least in India, there is, as a part of the pre-service degree, there is a school internship or a school experience program where teachers have to go and be in classrooms. I'm sure countries have, like, it's the practicum part of the curricula. So different countries have different versions of this. So what we've done is integrated the TCF into that piece, whereas the practical element of the teacher development in pre-service. So the school experience or the school internship program, again, they would have classroom observations by their mentors. The classroom observation tool is integrated into, like, it's a TCF integrated observation tool. So you're observing teachers for those 20 indicators, and the faculty are trained to observe like that. And what we've done is there's a series of 5 to 6 workshops that the pre-service educators get, which are TCF-based workshops. And our team has just done 2 installments of these workshops as of now, but it's a new experimental thing that we're doing. So so we're looking at workshops and toolkits as a support that pre-service educators get year-long, and they get specialized kind of coaching support in their school internship program from faculty members by using those observation tools. And this is something we're actually doing for the first time. So would love to co-learn with you and share the results with you. And yeah, we'll share. And it's the first time we've actually completed a year-long cycle. And we will be publishing the report very soon. So I would definitely share that with you if that's of interest.
I think maybe Lanre is frozen, but I will share any resources, etc. Oh, did you get that, Lanre? We lost you.
Yes. Sorry, you lost me for a second. Yes, it's really.
Oh, I think we definitely lost it, but she might come back. Did anybody else want to add to that? I will be sharing the recording. Someone asked me in the chat, and I will be sharing takeaways. So we'll capture all of this information. Oh, she's back. I think. Lanre, you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was saying was that it's really exciting to hear this because we call that internship teaching practice in Nigeria. And we're currently working with about 300 pre-service teachers that are going through their teaching practice right now. And our challenge has been, how do we work with a tool that helps to check? So you actually have done what we're trying to do, and it would be great to learn from your results. Thank you very much.
Perfect. I can make some introductions following the session. I think what we might do is we still have some time, but I'm going to ask Mercy if she can launch our spotlight poll in the background. So if you wouldn't mind filling that in, it would be great to have some feedback on the session today. We really appreciate that. But do let us know if you have further questions. The session is open till past, so we've still got time if there's other things you would like to talk about. I think the emails and contacts were shared in the chat, but I'm just going to put them back up on the screen so that you can have the emails up. Here we go. So to reach out to David, Jess, Chandni or Angela, their emails are on here and in the chat, but I will do some follow-up and include everyone on the email. And if you wanted to know more about GSF, you can email me as well. And just to say that other spotlights and events we communicate out in our snapshot newsletter. So you'll find out what else is coming up in our calendar there. And for anyone external who isn't a part of the community, we will sign you up to our newsletter. So just drop me a message in the chat if you prefer to be opted out. But I just want to give a final thank you to our speakers today. I will be staying on the call and we can keep going if anyone has anything, but I just really wanted to thank you for your time, because I think what you've shared today is really valuable. I think a lot of people are going to find this useful. So I'm really happy to make some introductions. I'm looking forward to some collaborations that come out of this. And that's it from me.